In today's video, I'm going to be adding some amazing new discus to my 90-gallon aquarium. I'm also going to be adding some new tank mates and discussing just some general updates about this tank. A lot has been going on behind the scenes and I can't wait to give you all the updates in today's video. So let's dive right in. So this is my 90-gallon discus aquarium that I picked up roughly 7 months ago. I found this tank used on Facebook Marketplace, and after I got it home, painted the stand and the canopy and the background black, and then I did a leak test. And then after that, it was time to aquascape this tank, and after reading a lot of your comments, I definitely wanted to go with discus in this tank. So knowing that, I picked up some sand, some driftwood, some rocks, and of course some live plants. I went with mostly Java fern and Anubias, and later on I added a few rooted plants as well. I definitely have plans to add more plants and to really focus on growing these plants out, but I wanted to get the stocking of this tank settled and under control first, and that's what you're going to see in this video. So then about a month after that, and roughly 6 months ago, I got my order from Chicago Discus. I got 3 red melon discus and 3 tiger turquoise discus. Initially I was really happy with this order. I thought the red melons looked great. I thought 1 or 2 of the tiger turquoise discus looked great, and 1 was kind of struggling right off the bat. But the red melon discus were doing great right away. They were swimming around freely. They were eating any food, flakes, pellets, or frozen foods that I put in the tank. But the tiger turquoise were very skittish. They were almost getting bullied by some of the others. And just in general, I noticed 1 or 2 of those tiger turquoise just weren't doing as well, eating as readily, and they were just hiding out all the time and scared. And as I continue to do more research on discus and just nerd out about any information I can find on these guys, that's when I really noticed that 2 of those tiger turquoise just weren't the right shape and size, and overall they just weren't really top quality discus that you might find out there. They didn't really have the rounded shape, they were kind of thin, and they just weren't eating very well no matter what I put in the tank. And I tried a lot of things over those first 5 months, but unfortunately about 2 months ago, I did lose 2 of the tiger turquoise discus. So even though I was super bummed about that, I still had 3 great red melon discus and 1 good tiger turquoise discus. And this is right around the time that I did the unboxing video for their discus tank mates. And this was another online order from Chicago Discus. I picked up 14 or 15 rummynose tetras, a beautiful blue phantom pleco, 2 German blue rams, and 6 skunk cories. I ended up adding the rummynose and the pleco to my quarantine tank on the bottom, and then I added my cories with the 2 German blue rams to the quarantine tank on the top. Both of these quarantine tanks were fully cycled, ready to go. The water parameters were perfect. I had fish in them right before I added these new fish. And although the rummynose tetras and the plecos did great in the bottom quarantine tank, unfortunately everything in that top quarantine tank did not make it, and I lost them pretty quickly, one by one, all 6 cories and the 2 German blue rams. So this was a total bummer, especially coming around the same time that I lost 2 of those discus, and it really changed a lot of the plans that I had going for this tank, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit more throughout the video. And even though it was not fun to lose those fish in quarantine, it does show the importance of doing the quarantine process anytime you get new fish. Had I added those cories and the German blue rams to this discus tank right away, likely the discus, the rummynose tetras, and the pleco, everything probably would have been infected. It would have been a big mess, and if there is a silver lining, it is that I confined the issue just to that 1 quarantine tank, and everything else was okay. So at this point I only had the 3 red melon discus, the 1 tiger turquoise discus in the 90-gallon tank, and then I had the 15 rummynose tetras and the pleco in one of my quarantine tanks. And rather than ordering online again, I actually went local in my area to Chicago Discus. I actually did a full behind the scenes tour and video of this location, which was a really eye-opening experience for me. I'll leave that video in the upper right hand corner as well as the description below. I was very surprised at how beautiful these discus were. They were big, colorful, their patterns were awesome, and they just looked so healthy. Especially coming off the issue I had with 2 of my discus, these just looked amazing and healthy, and so I decided to go and pick up some of these right away. So I may have got a little carried away and I picked up 4 new awesome discus for this 90-gallon aquarium. I brought them home and floated them right away, and even though I just talked about the quarantine process and the benefits of doing so, I decided to forego that step here because I really trusted the source. The fish were big and healthy, and I went ahead and put them right into this tank with my 4 previous discus. Another reason I had to skip the quarantine process with these 4 discus is that I have projects ongoing with some of the other tanks in my fish room, and I have fish that are growing out and in quarantine right now using the tanks that would have been intended for these new fish. So moral of the story is quarantine your fish if you can. Luckily these discus were just fine, and a couple weeks later they've been doing really well in this tank. So these new fish from Chicago Discus are absolutely beautiful. Let me go ahead and read off what I got here. I have a 4.5 inch albino leopard, which has some really awesome red and white color patterns.
Holy moly.
And then next, a 4-inch golden checkerboard, which has really good patterns as well, but a little more golden coloration.
There it is.
And then there's a 4-inch leopard, which has some really great blue coloration, which kind of replaces that tiger turquoise that I lost.
It's beautiful.
And then lastly, a 4.5 inch Penang eruption, which has some really great blue and reds throughout its body.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
And yeah, these fish are beautiful. They were definitely expensive.
I'm in debt up to my eyeballs.
But I think they were totally worth it, as I really love this tank now. And these discus are a little bigger. They're already doing really well. On day one, they were eating and they were just very active in the tank. I could just tell that they were much healthier seeming than the group that I had originally. So then I had my 8 discus in here. It was finally time to add some tank mates.
At last.
And because I picked up a couple more discus than I had originally planned for this tank, I decided to keep my pleco in quarantine. I'm going to be adding him to a different setup coming very soon. But for the rummynose tetras, they have been doing great in quarantine for about a month. I decided to pull them out, net them, put them into a little bowl, and then I put them directly into the discus tank. I think rummynose tetras might be my favorite tank mate option for a discus. Their schooling behavior is awesome. I really love the color pattern, the red in their face. It's also very cool that they show that red color pattern whenever they're happy and healthy, and if that color ever fades from the rummynose tetras, you can actually get a tail that your water has something wrong with it, where you can test it right away, do a water change, or act quickly before anything major happens in the tank. And if you're wondering about the maintenance I do on this tank, I do about 2 20% water changes weekly. That keeps the nitrates in check at a perfect level for the discus. I just use the Python to drain some of the water, fill it back up, and as it's filling, I add Chem Prime. And every couple weeks, I'll also replace the filter floss and the hang on the back filter. This tank is filtered by a Chem Tidal 110, as well as a Penplax canister filter on the bottom. And the light on this tank is the Aquarium Co-op LED light. I added a timer so I can set it on and off on my phone, and I've really enjoyed this light. I think it's perfect for this tank. The plants are really going to start thriving here with a fully stocked tank and a great new light. So here's the tank today, roughly 7 months after I first picked up the tank, scaped it, and roughly 6 months after I got my first fish in this tank. The new discus have been in here for a couple weeks, the rummynose tetras have really settled in over the last week. Everything seems to be doing really well together, and the other surprise that I got, I picked up 6 more cories and they are in quarantine with that blue phantom pleco, so that's resetting the timeline for the blue phantom pleco as well. But the next update on this tank will be adding those 6 corydoras as well as some more live plants, and really having this blossom into a great planted aquarium with some beautiful discus, beautiful tank mates, and I can't wait to see this tank really round into shape over the next few months. And if you'd like to see the progression of this tank and the new discus, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I can't wait to share more updates coming very soon. Thanks again for listening to story time here on my 90-gallon aquarium and my new discus. I'm very excited to have them. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.